Hey, what's up you guys? Yes, welcome back to another creepy video. Now, a few weeks ago we talked about some of the scariest childhood myths. We talked about the boogeyman and the monsters that live under your bed. We talked about eating certain foods that might make your stomach explode. We even talked about the myth that if you swallowed gum, it would stay in your body for 7 years. Now, all of those myths are scary when you're a child, but the older you get, the more you realize that monsters don't exist, and swallowing gum is something you shouldn't be afraid of. But there are some things in your teenage years that are actually even scarier. Now today we're not going to be talking about monsters under your bed or ghosts that live in your closet. We're going to be talking about some of the myths that I remember from being a teenager that kept me up at night. First, we're going to be talking about myths revolving around masturbation. Now, masturbation is completely normal and it's something that most people do. But when I was a teenager, there were so many myths around it. And one of the creepiest was that masturbating too much would make you go blind.
You know you can go blind from that too.
Give me 5 minutes, we'll go check out that house.
I know, it sounds crazy, especially now that I'm all grown up. But when I was a teenager, I really did think about it a lot. I would lay in my bed and I would start to masturbate and I literally couldn't even finish because I would think, oh my God, what if right when I'm done, I open my eyes and all I see is blackness? How am I going to explain it to my mom? How am I going to explain it to the people in my life? I'm going to go to the doctor and they're going to say, sorry son, you masturbated too much. Now your eyesight is gone. I thought masturbating was going to ruin my life. Now obviously it's not true. You're not going to go blind from masturbating. But that myth, along with a lot of others, was created because there's this weird feeling of guilt with masturbating, and there's also a weird feeling of shame, especially when you're a teenager. The last thing you want is for people to know that you masturbate. I mean, I remember even laying in my bed and I would start to do it and I would just stare at the door. And I couldn't even focus because all I could think about is somebody walking in that door and catching me, or somebody knocking on that door and asking, what are you doing? And I'd have to make up some elaborate lie. But now that I'm older, I would just be like, I'm jerking off. I'll be out in a minute. But besides blindness, there was another myth that I used to think about a lot. And that is the myth that if you masturbate too much, you will grow hair on your palms.
Oh, dude. That's not what I think it is it?
I got bored. The nurse was hot.
Now obviously, this one is not true either. First of all, there's no hair follicles on your palm, so growing it there would be almost impossible. But this myth came from the same place that a lot of other weird sexual myths came from, and that's the Dark Ages. And another myth that was created during those times was something called a chastity belt. Now what a chastity belt was an iron or metal belt that was put around a girl's vagina. And you couldn't get into it because it was literally locked. And the idea was that the king would put this around his daughter's waist to ensure that no guys got near her. Now I thought this was real. I thought they actually did this back then. I mean, I even remember clips from movies where they would show it.
A chastity belt? Ugh. That's going to chafe my willy.
But supposedly, it was just a myth. So feel free to masturbate as much as you want, and girls, don't worry, your dad is not going to put a lock on your vagina. Now there's a lot of other scary myths that come along with being a teenager and having sex, and a lot of them involve teen pregnancy. Now listen, first of all, I'm just gonna say it. Teen pregnancy can sometimes seem scary. But the only way you can get pregnant is from actual penetration sex. But when I was a kid, I remember hearing so many myths that you could get pregnant from a lot of different things. The first one was getting pregnant from a toilet seat. Now the idea was that if you were a girl and you sat down in a public bathroom onto a toilet seat, there was a chance that some homeless guy's sperm or some pervert that was jerking off in there earlier would have left their semen on the seat and it would crawl up inside of you and make you pregnant. Now that myth is not true. Number one, sperm dies very quickly after it comes out of the dick. So the chances of somebody coming onto a toilet seat and then later a girl sitting down, the sperm would be dead. Number two, sperm has to go directly inside of the vagina for there to even be a chance of getting pregnant. So the sperm literally can't like jump from the toilet seat into the vagina. And there's another myth that's in kind of the same area as this, and I remember hearing this one a lot. It's the myth that you can get pregnant just from sitting in a jacuzzi that somebody had sex in.
I'm pregnant.
But we never...
Last month. Hot tub?
Oh no. Oh. But we were wearing our swimsuits.
As Jude said, a hot tub is the perfect temperature for sperm. It helps it swim faster.
Oh my God.
Now this is something I still think about. Not getting pregnant, obviously, but the idea of going in a jacuzzi or a pool that somebody had sex in, and the sperm is still like swimming around and getting in my mouth and in my clothes. But once again, that is not possible. You cannot get pregnant from sperm swimming through a hot tub into your vagina. And I know the idea of swimming in a pool that somebody might have peed or jizzed in is gross, but just remember the fact that you also probably swim in the ocean, and that is fucking crazy. I'm not even gonna talk about the things I have found in the ocean water when I went swimming. One time I found a actual piece of shit inside of a Doritos bag floating right past me. Done. So the only way you can actually get pregnant is from having sex without a condom. This is where we're gonna kind of get into a gross area. There are some myths that you can use other objects instead of condoms and it will work. There are dark corners of the internet where people have talked about using other items such as a balloon, saran wrap, a latex glove, a Doritos bag, and even a Snickers wrapper. What?
Sema ile méthode iko bien, make ule mtu anajijua yeye peke make iko bien.
Now listen, none of those will work. And condoms are incredibly cheap and incredibly easy to find. Sometimes you can even get them for free. So instead of fucking somebody with a Twinkies wrapper, sounds fun. Just grab a condom. Alright, so next we're going to talk about the myth that having sex as a teenager might get you murdered. Now there have been countless horror movies made where a teenager has sex and then they die. I mean, that's the basis of my favorite horror movie of all time, Scream. They even say it in the movie.
Number one, you can never have sex. Big no-no!
And I know when I was a teenager, I thought about it too. I mean, I didn't think about me having sex and getting killed because nobody was having sex with me. But I did think about my friends, and I think about them going to parties and having sex. And I'm like, what does that mean? Is somebody gonna kill them? Is it like karma? Because once again, we are bred to think that sex is bad and masturbation is bad and it's all guilty and all that shit. And we also grew up watching movies where it would happen over and over again. Jason, a couple gets killed after having sex. Michael Myers kills teens after they have sex. In the movie Jaws, not even a serial killer movie, kids go skinny dipping and then they die. In a more recent movie, It Follows. You have sex, you catch this STD that is actually a ghost that follows you. And then of course Freddy Krueger, who kills you for having sex and literally any other reason. Now the idea that having sex as a teenager would lead to death started way before movies. There have been urban legends about this for years. And one of the scariest legends is called the boyfriend's death. One evening, a boyfriend and girlfriend were driving along a country road when their car ran out of gas. Now they pull over off the side of the road and they're not too worried because they saw a gas station about a mile back. Well, they decided to take advantage of this moment and start making out in the car until the girlfriend says she's getting creeped out by the darkness and she just wants to go get some gas. Well, the boyfriend tells the girlfriend to wait in the car. He'll go walk over a mile and get the gas and he'll be right back. Well, he walks away and she falls asleep in the car while she waits for him. Well, a while later, in the middle of the night, she woke up. She heard a tapping sound coming from the top of the car. Tap, 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 tap. She lays on the floor of the car underneath her boyfriend's jacket, terrified, not knowing what the sound is. She starts to wonder what it could be. Maybe it's an animal. And then as she's about to scream out her boyfriend's name, BAM! A police officer's hand slams on her window and asks her to unroll. She's terrified and she opens the door and she says, "What's going on?" The police officer tells her to get out of the car and to follow him. And whatever she does, do not look back. Well, as they're walking away from the car, she gets curious. She turns around and she sees her boyfriend hanging from the tree above the car, gutted, and blood is dripping onto the roof of the car. Tap, 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 tap. Now this story has been around forever, and I think the whole point of this story is to scare teenagers from like driving to the wilderness and making out and having sex with their boyfriends and girlfriends. But even though it is a myth, technically it is something that I guess could happen. Now this next myth is half myth and half real. And this is something I remember my friends in school who were girls being terrified of. This is the idea that if you keep a tampon inside of you too long, it will make your limbs fall off. Now, a surprising amount of people have not heard about something called toxic shock syndrome. Now, TSS is actually a very real thing. Now, this is basically a form of a bacterial staph infection. Now, it's associated with tampons because vaginas could, in theory, be a place for bacteria to breed. It's very moist and very warm. But TSS only affects 0.002% of women. But there have been some cases that are terrifying. In 2012, a model named Lauren Wasser sadly did lose her leg to TSS, and she has talked about it publicly.
As soon as they found the tampon and they sent it off to the lab, it came back as TSS1, toxic shock syndrome.
Now, once again, it's incredibly rare and you will be fine, so do not freak out about your fingers falling off from your tampon. As long as you practice basic hygiene and make sure to remove it, you'll be fine. Now, this last one is kind of crazy. It's not scary at all, but like when I heard that it was a myth. Now, when I was a teenager, I used to love cracking my knuckles. Me and my friends would have competitions to see who could be the loudest, but teachers, parents, pretty much any adult would say, don't do that, it'll give you arthritis. Now listen, without getting too sciencey, because this is not a science channel, it's not actual bones that are cracking when you crack your knuckles. It's gas buildup that's escaping the joints. This myth that you will get arthritis because of doing it was literally created by mothers and fathers who couldn't fucking stand the sound of their kids cracking their knuckles, so they said, it's gonna give you arthritis. Well, guess what? It kind of worked. My mom would tell me that, and I'd stop doing it. But now that I know it's fine, we'll be doing it all day. Well, there you guys go. Hopefully you enjoyed some of these scary teenage myths. And once again, I know they weren't really scary. It wasn't like we were talking about, well, we did talk about murder, but we weren't talking that much about murder. But I think when you're a teenager, the idea of getting an STD, getting pregnant, having your fingers fall off, going blind from masturbation, all of those things are so real and way scarier than a monster in your closet. Alright, you guys, if you like this video and you want more scary myth videos, give me a thumbs up so I know. Also, make sure to subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell because I make new videos every day. And let me know down in the comments which of these myths you remember hearing. And also, what other myths are there? Alright, you guys, I will see you tomorrow. Watch out for jacuzzis.